Okay, let's take this idea one step further. And what we're going to do now is, well, first off, let's add a new column. We're going to learn something new here. We're going to right click in anywhere in column A. So you see that the mouse, when it's hovered up here in this cell where it says A, it turns green. I'll right click and choose the option for insert, and that will bring in a brand new column. Notice how it stays A and it shifts everything over to B, C, D, and E, and so on. And what we want to do is in cell A6, let's type in the word total, and I'll hit the tab key. And what we're going to do is we're going to add up all of the numbers in column B, and we're going to add up all of the numbers in column C. Up to this point, we've only ever added this way, where we hit equals, and you don't have to follow me here. I'm going to do the long way first, but I'll show you a much shorter way to do this. So I'm going to hit the up arrow, and you'll notice that we have 4 numbers here, so we need to add all 4 numbers. We could hit plus and hit the up arrow, and plus and hit the up arrow, and plus, until we had B2 plus B3 and 4 and so on. Now that's all fine when you have 4 numbers that you're trying to add, but what happens when you have 10,000 rows? Obviously you're not going to add B2, 3, 4, 5 and then do that 9,000 more times. You really want to find a shortcut, a way to handle this where you can add lots of numbers really quickly, or subtract or multiply or whatever it might be. So what we're going to do is I'm going to backspace all of those out. That would have given me the correct answer, by the way, but this time I'm going to try something else. I'm going to type in B2, and then I'm going to write a colon, and then B5. Right? Notice that by itself, this is going to select all of the cells, and if I hit enter, it's going to give me a value and says there's an error. And I want you to think about what the error is. I typed in B2 to colon B5, and it did what I expected it to do. When you use a colon, it highlights all of the cells from B2 to B5, or from whatever you specify. Except, what did I forget here? I forgot to tell it to add the numbers up. By itself, it doesn't have an instruction. It just says highlight the cells. So in this case, you would think that Excel, the programmers who developed it, would have built a program like this that was add, and then open parentheses, and then go to the end of it and do close parentheses. Now, you would have thought that this is how they would have made the software. Really plain English, open parentheses, close parentheses, and you're bracketing the cells that you want to add. That all looks somewhat okay. I know the brackets seem new to you. This is a new concept, but that is actually how you write it. What you don't write is add. I know that seems like, why would they do that? But if we hit enter, it gives us this name. And it gives us this name error because it doesn't recognize what this means. It seems simple. It seems like it should recognize it, but the formula for adding numbers is actually SUM, or sum. So it's saying take the sum of these numbers. And if I click up here in the formula bar, or click down here in the cell, the active cell, I can hit enter, and it's actually going to add all of those numbers from B2 to B5. So this is it. This is the formula. Get some practice in doing that, hitting equals, sum, open parentheses, and then you can hit the up arrow, or you could have just typed in B2 colon, or if you want, you can hold down the shift key and hit the down arrow, and that will select multiple cells. Now, most people, when they're first time doing this, they want to hit enter right now. That's okay. It might correct it for you. You get what you need, but recognize that it gave a closing bracket or closing parentheses, even though I didn't have it there. So the right way to write this formula would have been, or is, equals sum, open parentheses, and for every open parentheses that you create, you need a closing parentheses. So I'm going to hit the up arrow, hold down the shift key from when I'm highlighted in B2, hold it down and hit the down arrow all the way down to B5. I'm going to keep the shift key held down, close brackets, and close the parentheses, hit enter, and there I have a formula that's the right one for adding a group of numbers. And again, this looks trivial. Why would you not just use plus? Well, this list is going to grow when we go throughout the course, and in any real life spreadsheet that you're using, this list could be 1,000 to 10,000 or 100,000 long, and there's no way that you could write that formula by doing equals and then going through each one at a time. Okay, so let's do the next one. Let's go over to cell C6 and do equals, sum, open parentheses, and this time let's just type in C2 colon C5, close parentheses. Just want to prove to you that you can type in or you can use the mouse, it doesn't really matter. Just as long as you make sure you have the equals, the correct formula, which is sum, and then open parentheses, C2, the very first cell, colon to indicate a range of numbers is going to be added, and then C5, that tells it where to stop. So this tells it where to start, this tells it where to stop. You hit enter, there you have it, 194. You can just, if you would like, you can verify some of the math. I know the add by default is going to be available in this option, but if you go up here to C2 and then click and drag, like left click and down, sometimes Microsoft Excel will show you the result as you highlight the cells. So this tells us sum is 194. We can verify that we did the formula correctly because we typed in the formula here for adding, and 194 is matching 194. That gives us that extra sense of security that we're doing the formula correctly. So what did we learn? We learned that you can add a group of cells or highlight a group of cells using the colon, that the open and close parentheses are important, that this is a formula, and Excel only knows sum and lots of other formulas, but just for adding it's sum. And one last thing I want to point out is that you could do a bracket for all of these, or you could do a little bit different variation, a comma instead of a plus. When you write the sum formula, you would do B3, comma, B4, comma, B5. Again, this is a slow way to do it, but just to let you know that this still would work. It's showing you the recommendation for sum number 1, comma, number 2, comma, number 3, comma, and this means on to infinity, these little dots here. So it's saying B2, B3, B4, B5, and that's exactly the format that it's suggesting that you use. Of course, I showed you a different method first. I showed you the correct method. I would say the more correct method is to take all of that out, put a colon in between, and there you have it. Up to this point, you've learned that we can do a copy and paste to drag formulas. I also want to show you a cut and paste operation. This is a little bit different in that you're going to not be dragging the formula down like this with a copy and paste. We're going to see the formula drop down from the B2 to B5 to now go down to B3 to B6. We don't want that all of the time where we want to copy and paste. We want to cut and paste where we want to move these cells to a different position on the spreadsheet. So we may have thought later after doing the calculation that, you know what, we didn't want total 128 and 194 to be in row 6. For some reason, it just made more sense for it to be lower down on the spreadsheet, but we don't want to have to retype the formula in where we go total and then do the same math again on adding these numbers to get the output here and adding these numbers to get the output here. We just want to move the numbers that we already have, 128 and 194, and their formula, we want to move that to a different cell. So that's a cut and paste operation. You can move multiple cells at one time with a cut and paste. Let's do one at a time, and then we'll do both together at the same time. So to do a cut and paste, you bring the highlighter region here to cell B6 and do Command X, or you could have done edit and cut. There's the Command X shortcut. And while the little lines are going around, we can bring it down to cell B8 and hit Command V for paste, or go up here and do edit, paste. Now look what happened. it maintained 128. We didn't drag the formula down. We did not do a copy and paste. We did a cut and paste where we moved that formula down here, and it's still referencing cells B2 to B5. It's still, Excel realized that, hey, you were just moving the formula. You weren't trying to drag anything or continue an operation. You just wanted to move where that was located at. And that's a cut and paste operation. So let's hit enter, and I'll show you a new technique here. You go to cell C6, and instead of putting your cursor in the bottom right hand corner where the changes to a black lines intersecting, let's move the mouse over just a little bit to the left, and you see that the mouse turns to a hand symbol. That hand symbol is the equivalent of cut and paste. So when you see the hand and it's at the bottom, it's only available on the perimeter of the cell, so the right edge, the top, left and right as you approach the line that separates the two cells. So as soon as you see the hand come up, you can left click and drag it down to cell C8, and that performs a cut and paste, the same operation that we did before in bringing B6 down to B8. Sometimes people make the mistake when they want to do a cut and paste, they come over here and drag this down and they realize, uh-oh, that's not what I wanted. I don't want more operations to happen. I just wanted to move 194 down here. And so the best thing I can recommend is make the mistake, hit Command Z for undo. That's my favorite key in Microsoft Excel. I'll do that throughout the videos. And I could have also done edits and undo autofill. So Command Z. This is just going backwards one step. Okay. And let's take a look at the difference of having these now up here. And you probably just saw what I just did right there is I highlighted both cells that I know I wanted to move. So I went to B6 and I hold down the shift key and hit the right arrow. It selects both cells, B6 and C6, and I can move my mouse down to the bottom line, or I could have done to the left or the top. I'll just go from the top this time. And I click and drag them both down to B8 and C8, and it's the exact same operation, doing a cut and paste. All right, let's do a quick recap of probably one of the most frustrating experiences in Microsoft Excel for most people when they're getting started. And that is the difference between selecting cells, highlighting them, copying them, and pasting them, and cut and paste. Okay, let me hit undo to go back. 3 steps, I'm just hitting Command Z. And let me just go ahead and get rid of A6 here to make it nice and clean. Let's say I wanted to move these 3 cells up or perform a cut and paste. So when you think move, think cut and paste. I want to move these things. I want to keep them the way they are, referring to the exact same cells, and I just want to move them up. So I can go to the edge of the cells to move them. All right, but first I needed to highlight them. So let me show that real fast. So sometimes people go here to the corner and they get a little confused. They're in the bottom and they want to drag cells over to highlight them. That's not what you're looking for here. If you're just looking to highlight cells, like get them selected with a highlighter, multiple cells, I need to move my mouse into the center of a cell. It can't be on the perimeter and it can't be on the corners. The mouse needs to be in somewhere in the center of the cell, and you see that indicated by the white crossing bars. Now if I left click and drag, it highlights multiple cells. That just means that they're selected, they're ready for an operation. So the operation I'm going to do is a cut and paste. I move my mouse to the perimeter of the cell, I see that it changes to a hand, and I left click and drag, and that performs a cut and paste. If I wanted to do a copy and paste from here, I could move my mouse to the bottom right hand corner and click and drag the very bottom right hand corner, and that's only the right hand corner for a copy and paste. Now this isn't what I wanted. This doesn't make a lot of sense to be copying and pasting in this situation, but you will see that there's situations where this does make more sense. And you can see that we didn't use absolute references, so there's no dollar signs in that formula up here. So if you click on this cell, look up here, click on the formula bar, you notice that the blue region has moved down 1. It was selecting B2 to B5. It now moved down 1. It's selecting B3 to B6. And this doesn't make any sense. Why would we be adding up these numbers? We wouldn't want that. So let's just left click inside here and drag. And I'll now right click anywhere in the shaded region and go here down to clear contents. Okay, so that's the 3 operations: cut and paste, copy and paste, and just selecting cells.